Hi there, welcome to EE308 and 348 substitute lecture. I guess it's a substitute lecture. It was for the banquet lecture, I guess we should call it. Today I'm going to talk about just a couple things about diff pairs, and then because this is for 348 also, I'm just going to talk about BJTs, and we're going to go through some ways to increase gain. So you saw the three basic kinds of amplifiers. You saw the common emitter, you saw the common base, you saw the common collector. Each of them have their own characteristics, like the common base has a small Rn. So those are the basic amplifiers. All amplifiers after that are built upon one of those designs. And we're going to look at today how we can increase the gain of the common emitter. And anything you say for the common emitter generally goes for the common base also. Okay, so first, differential pairs. Differential pairs, we looked at how you calculate the gain for these. And the important point was that if you used balanced inputs, that this node right here doesn't move. And if everything's equal, everything's well matched, if that node doesn't move, when you do AC analysis, nodes that don't move, that becomes an AC ground. And once you do that, then that becomes your circuit, which is a common emitter. So without doing any really involved calculations, you can immediately just say, well, hey, this half, that has the same gain as a common emitter. But the one thing you need to notice is that just kind of by definition, if you have balanced inputs, that means half of the signal shows up here and half of the signal shows up over here. They're moving in opposite directions, but half of the signal on each side. If you have half of the signal here, that means that output is going to change half as much as if you give it the whole signal. And over here it changes half as much as if you give it the whole signal. But when you put them together, now you've got two halves that make a whole. So the short version of this, and we can talk about it in more detail if this is still confusing, is that the gain, if you have a balanced input, the gain is the same as a common emitter. Okay, you say, well, hey, why would I want to use this? You know, a common emitter, is simple. One transistor, one resistor, and you're done. This has 3 transistors and 2 resistors. This is very handy because, in general, if you bias your input a little bit off, you're just fine. This node right here will move up to accommodate the correct current. So you can have your VIC, your common mode voltage for these 2 inputs. It can be up here, it can be down here. The circuit's still going to work. That's definitely not true for a common emitter. The other thing is that this is pretty robust against noise. Things bouncing around, if they're on both sides, if they're common mode, they get subtracted out and the noise is gone, if it's common to both signals. Okay. But the big thing here that I wanted to say is just that the gain of this, and look at that, you've got your common emitter. You already know that that's GM RO, and in this case your RO is RD in parallel with RO. RD is probably going to be much smaller than RO, so it's the GM of your input transistor times RD. And you've got your gain. Okay, so that's kind of the base where we're going to start today. Let's see, what's the first thing you can do to increase gain? Simplest thing. See, where's the picture? Active loads. We're getting there. We'll talk about some of that other stuff. Okay. Apparently I don't have a picture of that. So let's do. So an active load. You've seen an active load, I'm assuming, but the trick here is to get your mouse to work. Yeah, something's up with my mouse. Can't draw very well, but instead of a resistor here, you have a transistor, and then when you look in from the output, so this gets replaced with an NPN transistor. Now you're looking up into RO and down into RO. There's an RO in parallel with RO. You get RO over 2. So hey, all of a sudden, you know that gain is your R out times the GM of your input transistor. Now you've just upped your R out dramatically. So that improved the gain quite a bit. So going passive to active load, that's one way to increase your gain. Okay, now we had a whole bunch of slides. Another technique that you can use to increase your gain is cascoding.